The fastest way to lose someone is to make them feel small. No one in the grand ballroom knew that a single sentence spoken in anger was about to change 3 lives forever. The annual Hayes Global Charity Gala was the kind of event people waited months to attend. Crystal chandeliers sparkled above hundreds of guests. A live orchestra played softly in the background. New York's skyline glowed beyond the towering windows. Everywhere Logan Hayes looked, cameras flashed, and influential people competed for his attention. At 36, Logan had built one of the most successful companies in the country. Investors admired him. Business magazines celebrated him. Employees feared disappointing him. Tonight was supposed to be another flawless evening. Then Emma Brooks accidentally dropped a tray of champagne glasses. The sound echoed across the ballroom. Conversation stopped. Heads turned. A few glasses shattered harmlessly against the marble floor. The silence that followed felt much louder than the noise itself. Emma froze. Her cheeks immediately turned red. She had volunteered to help coordinate the charity event after spending weeks organizing community outreach programs for the foundation. Normally, she handled pressure well. But with hundreds of people watching, embarrassment washed over her instantly. "I am so sorry," she said quietly, kneeling to help gather the scattered pieces. Several staff members rushed forward. The situation should have ended there. It was a simple mistake. Human. Forgettable. But Logan had already spent the entire evening dealing with demanding investors, last-minute schedule changes, and endless media interviews. His patience had worn dangerously thin. As photographers continued snapping pictures, he walked toward Emma with visible frustration. "What happened?" he asked. "It slipped," Emma answered softly. "I can clean it up." Logan glanced around at the guests staring in their direction. Then he said the words he would spend months regretting. "You only embarrass me." The ballroom suddenly felt colder. Emma looked up at him. For a moment, she seemed unsure whether she had heard correctly. Logan immediately noticed the hurt in her eyes, but pride kept him from taking the words back. Around them, guests pretended not to listen while clearly listening to every word. Emma slowly stood. Her hands trembled slightly. "I understand," she said. There was no argument. No dramatic scene. No tears. Somehow that made it worse. Logan expected her to defend herself. Instead, she simply nodded. "Enjoy the rest of your evening, Mr. Hayes." Then she walked away. The orchestra resumed playing. Conversations returned. The gala continued as if nothing had happened. Yet Logan found himself distracted for the remainder of the night. Several times he looked across the ballroom expecting to see Emma speaking with volunteers or helping guests. She was nowhere to be found. By the time the final donors left and the lights began to dim, an uncomfortable feeling settled in his chest. Not guilt exactly. At least that was what he told himself. Emma worked for the foundation. Mistakes happened. People moved on. The next morning, Logan woke up expecting another busy day. What he did not expect was a short email waiting in his inbox. Subject line, "Taking some time away." The message contained only 3 sentences. "Thank you for the opportunity. The foundation will receive all completed project files by the end of the week. I wish you and Hayes Global continued success." Logan stared at the screen for several seconds. Then, for reasons he could not explain, the empty space left by her absence suddenly felt much larger than the mistake that had caused it. Emma spent the next 3 days exactly the way she always handled disappointment. Quietly, she completed every unfinished project, organized every file, answered every email, and prepared detailed notes for the volunteers who would continue her work. No one at the foundation knew the real reason she was leaving. When people asked if she was taking a vacation, she simply smiled and changed the subject. Deep down, she understood something Logan never had. It was not the champagne glasses that hurt. It was not the public embarrassment. It was hearing someone she respected reduce her entire worth to a single mistake. Meanwhile, life inside Hayes Global continued at its usual speed. Logan attended meetings, negotiated contracts, and approved expansion plans worth millions of dollars. Yet something felt different. During a Monday strategy session, his assistant interrupted with a routine question. Who should oversee the summer community outreach program now that Emma is leaving? Logan looked up immediately. Leaving. The word escaped before he could stop it. Several executives exchanged confused glances. Yes, Claire replied. Her resignation becomes effective Friday. Logan leaned back in his chair. For reasons he could not explain, the news irritated him. Not because she was important to the company. At least that was what he told himself. The foundation employed dozens of people. Replacements could always be found. Yet throughout the remainder of the meeting, he found it difficult to focus. Later that afternoon, he walked through the foundation offices for the first time in months. Emma's workspace was easy to find. It sat near a window overlooking a small park. The desk was neatly organized. Family photographs had already been removed. Several shelves were nearly empty. The sight created an unexpected feeling of finality. One of the volunteers noticed him standing there. "She always leaves everything better than she found it," the woman said. Logan glanced toward her. "What do you mean?" "The literacy program, the scholarship drive, the community library partnerships. Most of those projects only exist because Emma refused to give up on them." Logan remained silent. The volunteer smiled sadly. "We are really going to miss her." That evening, Emma packed the final box from her apartment office. On top sat a worn library card she had carried since college. She slipped it carefully into her wallet before receiving a phone call from an unfamiliar number. "Emma Brooks?" a man asked. "Yes. My name is Nathan Reed. We met briefly last year during the city literacy fundraiser." Emma searched her memory and vaguely remembered him. Nathan Reed. Entrepreneur. Public speaker. One of the foundation donors. "Of course," she replied politely. "I heard you might be available for new opportunities." Emma laughed softly. News travels fast. Only when talented people are involved. The compliment caught her off guard. It had been a long time since anyone spoke to her that way. Nathan continued. "I am launching a community education initiative and could use someone with your experience. Would you be willing to meet for lunch?" Emma hesitated. Then she looked around the nearly empty office. For the first time since the gala, a small spark of possibility appeared. "I would like that," she answered. Across the city, Logan sat alone in his penthouse office staring at Emma's resignation email for the 5th time that week, completely unaware that while he was convincing himself her departure did not matter, someone else had already begun to recognize exactly how valuable she was. Logan expected Emma to come back. That was the truth he refused to admit, even to himself. During the first week after her resignation became official, he convinced himself she simply needed time. During the second week, he assumed she would eventually call about unfinished projects. By the third week, he found himself checking foundation reports for her name without realizing he was doing it. Every time he opened a document and did not see it, a strange frustration settled over him. The foundation offices felt different now. Quieter. Less organized. Small problems that Emma once solved before anyone noticed had begun appearing everywhere. A volunteer event started late because no one coordinated transportation. A literacy workshop ran out of materials. Several community partners complained about delayed responses. None of the issues were major, but together they created an absence that was impossible to ignore. One afternoon, Claire entered Logan's office carrying a stack of reports. "The community reading initiative needs approval," she said. Logan glanced at the paperwork. "Emma usually handled this." Claire raised an eyebrow. "Emma does not work here anymore." The reminder irritated him more than it should have. "I know that." Claire studied him for a moment. "Do you?" After she left, Logan found himself staring out the window overlooking Manhattan. For years he had built his life around results. Problems had solutions. Weaknesses could be corrected. Success came from control. Yet none of those rules seemed to apply here. Emma had left, and for the first time he could not simply fix the situation with a phone call or a larger budget. Across the city, Emma's life was slowly moving in a different direction. Her lunch meeting with Nathan Reed had turned into several conversations, then collaborative planning sessions, and eventually a formal consulting role within his new education initiative. Unlike the corporate environment she had grown accustomed to, Nathan encouraged ideas instead of dismissing them. He listened carefully when she spoke. He asked questions. More importantly, he remembered the answers. One sunny afternoon, they toured a community library that would become part of the new program. Children filled the reading area while volunteers prepared shelves for donated books. Emma smiled as she watched families explore the space. "This is exactly what neighborhoods need," she said. Nathan nodded. "That is why I wanted you involved." Emma laughed softly. "You barely know me." "Actually, I know quite a bit." She looked surprised. Nathan pointed toward the worn library card sticking out of her wallet. "You carry the same card everywhere." Emma glanced down and smiled. "I have had it since I was 19. See, Nathan replied. Most people would never notice something like that. But details matter. The conversation was simple, harmless. Yet for the first time in weeks, Emma felt appreciated rather than judged. That evening, Logan attended a charity board dinner. Halfway through the event, one of the guests casually mentioned Nathan Reed's new education initiative. He hired someone impressive to help run it, the man said. Emma Brooks. Brilliant woman. Logan immediately looked up. Emma, you know her? Logan hesitated. Something like that. The guest smiled. Nathan speaks very highly of her. For reasons he could not explain, those 5 words stayed with Logan long after the dinner ended. Because somewhere between losing her and hearing another man admire her, he was beginning to realize that the person he thought would always remain within reach had quietly started, building a life that no longer included him. 2 months after leaving Hayes Global, Emma looked happier than she had in years. It was not because her life had suddenly become easier. If anything, she was working just as hard as before. The difference was simple. She no longer spent her days trying to prove her value to people who refused to see it. Nathan's education initiative was growing faster than anyone expected. New partnerships formed every week. Community libraries received funding. Reading programs expanded into neighborhoods that had been overlooked for years. Everywhere Emma went, she felt like she was building something meaningful. One Friday afternoon, she stood inside a renovated library helping volunteers prepare for its grand opening. Sunlight streamed through the windows while children explored colorful reading corners designed specifically for them. Nathan walked over carrying a stack of brochures. You should see the registration numbers, he said. We already have 300 families signed up. Emma smiled. That is incredible. Nathan handed her a brochure. You know, everyone keeps congratulating me. Because it was your idea. No, he replied. Because they have not met the person who actually made it work. Emma laughed softly and shook her head. Yet the compliment lingered. Nathan never seemed embarrassed by her success. He celebrated it. Meanwhile, Logan was learning a lesson he never expected to learn. The more distance grew between him and Emma, the more often he thought about her. At first it happened occasionally, then daily. Eventually she appeared in almost every quiet moment he had. One evening, he attended a fundraising dinner hosted by several business leaders. The event should have been routine. Instead, halfway through the evening, he spotted Emma across the room. She stood beside Nathan speaking with community organizers. Her smile appeared effortless, genuine, different from the careful professional smile she used at Hayes Global. Logan found himself staring before he even realized what he was doing. Interesting. The familiar voice came from beside him. Logan turned and immediately recognized Vanessa Cole. What do you want? He asked. Vanessa followed his gaze across the room. Now I understand. Logan frowned. Understand what? Vanessa smiled knowingly. Why you have been impossible to talk to lately. I have no idea what you were talking about. Of course you do. She nodded toward Emma and Nathan. You cannot stop watching them. Logan looked away immediately. Unfortunately, Vanessa had already seen enough. She looks happy. The observation irritated him. Good for her. Does it bother you? No, that was not very convincing. Logan exhaled slowly. Across the room, Nathan pulled out a chair for Emma before sitting beside her. A small gesture. Polite. Respectful. Yet Logan noticed it immediately. Worse, he realized he could not remember ever doing something similar himself. Vanessa studied his expression. You know what the funniest part is? She asked. Logan remained silent. The moment she stopped trying to impress you, everyone else started noticing her. The words hit harder than he expected. Because deep down, he knew she was right. For months he had treated Emma as someone ordinary, someone replaceable. Yet everywhere he looked now, other people seemed eager to tell him exactly how extraordinary she was. And for the first time, Logan began wondering whether losing Emma had not simply been a mistake. It might have been the biggest mistake of his life. The following month brought a series of successes for Nathan's education initiative, and Emma found herself busier than ever. New reading centers opened across the city. Local newspapers featured stories about literacy programs transforming neighborhoods. Community leaders praised the work being done. Yet what surprised Emma most was not the recognition. It was how much she enjoyed the process. For years, she had doubted herself whenever someone questioned her value. Now she was surrounded by people who trusted her judgment and appreciated her contributions. One Saturday morning she arrived at a newly renovated community center where dozens of families had gathered for a children's reading festival. Colorful banners decorated the entrance. Volunteers handed out books. Laughter filled the air. As Emma moved through the crowd greeting parents and students, she felt something she had not experienced in a very long time. Confidence. Nathan noticed it too. "You look different," he said as they prepared for the opening ceremony. Emma laughed. "Different how?" "Like someone who finally remembers how capable she is." The compliment made her smile. "I am still figuring that out." Nathan shook his head. "Everyone else already knows." Across town, Logan was attending a corporate networking event that should have required his full attention. Instead, he found himself distracted by a conversation happening nearby. Two executives were discussing recent community projects. "Nathan Reed's initiative is everywhere right now," one of them said. "I heard Emma Brooks is responsible for half its success." Logan immediately recognized the name. "More than half," the second executive replied. "Everyone I know says she is brilliant." Logan remained silent, but the words lingered long after the conversation ended. It seemed impossible to escape her. Every event, every report, every charitable project somehow led back to Emma. Worse, every news story revealed qualities he had never taken the time to appreciate. Later that week, Hayes Global hosted a leadership luncheon for nonprofit partners. Logan arrived expecting another routine afternoon. Then he walked into the ballroom and saw Emma standing near the stage reviewing presentation notes. For a brief moment, he simply stared. She looked confident, relaxed, happy. Gone was the cautious woman who constantly worried about making mistakes. This version of Emma seemed entirely different. Before he could decide whether to approach her, Nathan appeared beside her carrying 2 cups of coffee. Emma accepted one and smiled. The gesture was simple, ordinary, yet something about it bothered Logan far more than it should have. Throughout the luncheon, he found himself watching them from across the room. Nathan remembered details from previous conversations. He introduced Emma to influential guests as an equal. When she spoke during the presentation, he listened with complete attention. The contrast became impossible to ignore. Nathan treated her exactly the way Logan should have from the beginning. After the event ended, Logan stood alone near the exit while guests slowly departed. As Emma prepared to leave, several educators stopped to thank her for her work. One parent even hugged her and explained how the reading program had helped her son discover a love for books. Logan watched the entire exchange. For the first time, he fully understood what everyone else had been trying to tell him. The woman he once dismissed was changing lives everywhere she went. And the more he saw her shine without him, the more painful it became to remember that he had been the one who pushed her away in the first place. The first real sting arrived on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. Logan did not recognize it immediately. At first, it felt like simple annoyance. Then curiosity. Then something far more uncomfortable. Hayes Global had agreed to sponsor a citywide literacy conference, and representatives from dozens of nonprofit organizations gathered inside a downtown convention center. Logan attended only because his presence was expected. He planned to give a short speech, shake a few hands, and leave before lunch. Instead, he walked into the main exhibition hall and saw Emma standing beside Nathan. They were reviewing presentation materials at a booth surrounded by educators and community leaders. The sight caught him off guard, not because Emma was there. By now, seeing her name attached to successful projects had become almost routine. What surprised him was the ease between them. Nathan said something that made Emma laugh. Not a polite laugh. Not the careful smile she often used in professional settings. A genuine laugh. The kind that reached her eyes. Logan found himself watching longer than necessary. "Mr. Hayes?" A conference organizer approached him with a schedule. Logan immediately looked away. "Sorry, what was that?" The organizer repeated the question. Logan answered automatically, but his attention kept drifting back across the room. Throughout the morning, he noticed details he wished he had not noticed. Nathan carried extra materials so Emma did not have to. He introduced her before introducing himself. When people complimented the initiative, he openly credited her contributions. Small things, respectful things, things Logan realized he rarely did for anyone, especially Emma. After his speech ended, he considered leaving. Instead, he remained. Half an hour later, he spotted Emma near a refreshment table. For the first time in months, they stood less than 10 feet apart. She looked up and noticed him immediately. The smile on her face faded slightly. Not from anger, not even resentment. It was simply distance. The kind that appears when someone who once mattered becomes a stranger. "Hello, Logan," she said politely. "Emma." An awkward silence followed. "The conference seems successful," he finally said. "It is going well. I have heard good things about the initiative." "Thank you." The conversation felt formal. Careful. Nothing like the easy discussions they used to have before the gala. Before his words changed everything. Nathan approached moments later carrying 2 bottles of water. He handed one to Emma without hesitation. "I thought you might need this." Emma smiled. "Thank you." Logan immediately hated how natural the interaction looked. Nathan extended a hand. "Good to see you again, Logan." "You too." The handshake remained cordial, but something about it felt different now. For years, Nathan had been a business rival. Competitive, ambitious, successful. None of that had ever bothered Logan. Yet standing there watching him beside Emma triggered an emotion he could not comfortably name. After a few minutes, Nathan and Emma excused themselves to attend another panel discussion. Logan watched them walk away together through the crowded convention center. For the remainder of the afternoon, he struggled to focus on anything else. That evening, as rain streaked across the windows of his penthouse office, he replayed the encounter again and again. Emma had not been rude. She had not been hostile. In many ways, that made everything worse. Because she no longer seemed hurt. She no longer seemed angry. She simply seemed happy. And for the first time, Logan experienced the unsettling realization that another man had become a part of her future while he was slowly disappearing into her past. Over the next several weeks, Logan discovered something deeply frustrating. The more he tried to stop thinking about Emma, the more often she appeared in his mind. It happened during meetings, during flights, during quiet evenings when the city lights stretched endlessly beyond the windows of his penthouse. Every reminder seemed small on its own. A literacy report, a foundation update, a photograph from a community event. Yet together they formed a constant presence he could not escape. One morning, Claire entered his office carrying several folders. "These need your approval." Logan signed the first document without looking up. Then he paused. A familiar name appeared on the second page. Emma Brooks. Community Education Initiative Partnership. "Another one?" he asked. Claire glanced at the folder. "Their program is expanding again." Logan leaned back. "They seem to be everywhere lately." Claire smiled slightly. "That tends to happen when people are good at what they do." The response irritated him for reasons he could not explain. Later that week, Hayes Global hosted a regional nonprofit summit. Representatives from dozens of organizations attended. Logan arrived prepared to discuss funding strategies and community investments. Instead, he spent most of the afternoon receiving an education he never expected. Everywhere he went, people talked about Emma. A school principal praised her leadership. A library director described her dedication. A city council member called her one of the most effective advocates they had ever worked with. Logan listened quietly as the same pattern repeated over and over. Everyone seemed to know who Emma was. Everyone seemed to admire her. At one point, he found himself standing beside an elderly educator who had partnered with several literacy programs. "Emma Brooks is remarkable," the woman said warmly. "She never forgets a name." Logan forced a polite smile. "You know her well?" "Not as well as I would like." The woman laughed softly. "But she remembers details about everyone she meets. That is a rare gift." The conversation stayed with him long after it ended, because suddenly Logan realized something uncomfortable. He could describe market trends across 5 continents. He could remember details from negotiations years earlier. Yet he had never taken the time to learn the small things that mattered to Emma. He did not know her favorite book. He did not know where she spent weekends. He did not even know why she carried that worn library card everywhere. Nathan did. The realization bothered him more than he wanted to admit. A few days later, social media photographs from a literacy fundraiser began circulating online. Logan encountered them accidentally while reviewing public relations reports. In one image, Emma stood beside a group of children holding donated books. In another, she and Nathan were laughing during a community presentation. The final photograph stopped him completely. Nathan and Emma sat together at an outdoor cafe reviewing project plans. Nothing inappropriate. Nothing romantic. Just 2 people enjoying each other's company. Yet Logan stared at the image far longer than necessary. He hated how natural they looked together. He hated how comfortable she seemed around him. Most of all, He hated the realization that Nathan knew how to bring out a version of Emma he had never bothered to understand. That evening, Logan attended a private dinner with investors. The conversation centered around acquisitions and expansion opportunities, but he barely heard any of it. Instead, his thoughts kept returning to Emma's smile in that photograph. By the time he returned home, a truth he had been avoiding for months became impossible to ignore. Nathan was not winning because he was richer, smarter, or more successful. Nathan was winning because he paid attention. And for the first time, Logan began to wonder how many chances he had wasted simply because he assumed Emma would always be there. Summer arrived, and with it came the annual City Impact Awards, one of the most prestigious charity events in New York. Leaders from nonprofit organizations, business groups, and community programs gathered to celebrate projects that had made a measurable difference throughout the year. This time, Emma was one of the featured speakers. When Logan received the invitation, he almost declined. Then he saw her name listed near the top of the program and changed his mind immediately. The ballroom was packed by the time he arrived. Round tables filled the space. Cameras flashed. Reporters interviewed guests near the entrance. Logan took his seat near the front and told himself he was there to support the foundation. The lie lasted less than 5 minutes. The moment Emma stepped onto the stage, she became the only thing he noticed. She looked confident, calm, entirely comfortable in front of hundreds of people. As she spoke about literacy programs and community partnerships, the audience listened attentively. Her words were simple, sincere, and powerful. She talked about children discovering a love for reading, parents gaining access to educational resources, neighborhoods becoming stronger because people cared enough to invest in them. When she finished, the room erupted into applause. Logan found himself clapping longer than anyone at his table. "She is impressive," one guest remarked. Logan quietly nodded. "Yes, she is." For the rest of the evening, Emma seemed to be everywhere. Educators stopped to congratulate her. Community leaders requested meetings. Donors wanted photographs. Watching her move through the crowd, Logan realized something else. She was no longer standing in anyone's shadow. Not his. Not Nathan's. She had become a respected figure in her own right. Yet despite that realization, a different emotion continued growing inside him. Near the end of the event, the orchestra began playing and guests slowly drifted toward the dance floor. Logan was speaking with several sponsors when movement across the room caught his attention. Nathan approached Emma and offered his hand. She smiled before accepting. Together, they stepped onto the dance floor. The sight hit Logan harder than he expected. Around them, couples moved gracefully beneath the chandeliers while soft music echoed through the ballroom. Nathan said something that made Emma laugh. She looked relaxed, happy, comfortable. Once again, nothing inappropriate was happening. Yet Logan could not look away. "There it is," a familiar voice said beside him. He turned and found Vanessa standing nearby. "What?" he asked. Vanessa nodded toward the dance floor. "The look." Logan frowned. "I do not know what you mean." "Yes, you do." She folded her arms. "I have known you for years. I have seen you negotiate billion-dollar deals without blinking. I have seen competitors threaten your business and fail to get a reaction." Her gaze shifted toward Emma and Nathan. "But watching those two together? That is the most emotional I have ever seen you." Logan remained silent. Because for once, he could not argue. As the music continued, a painful truth settled over him. The problem was not Nathan. The problem was that another man had recognized Emma's worth long before he did. Another man had listened when she spoke, celebrated her achievements, and made her feel valued. And standing there beneath the glow of the ballroom lights, Logan finally understood that what he was feeling was not irritation, curiosity, or regret. It was jealousy. Real, undeniable jealousy. And for the first time, it frightened him. The weeks following the awards gala were some of the most difficult Logan had experienced in years. Not because of business challenges. Hayes Global continued performing exceptionally well. Profits increased. Expansion projects succeeded. Investors remained satisfied. Yet none of it brought him the sense of accomplishment it once had. For the first time, success felt strangely hollow. Every achievement seemed overshadowed by a single realization. Emma was building a life without him, and she appeared happier than ever. One afternoon, Logan attended a planning session for a city education initiative that Hayes Global partially funded. Representatives from several organizations gathered around a large conference table to discuss future partnerships. Nathan's team was there. Emma was there too. Logan told himself he would remain professional. He intended to contribute to the discussion and leave. Unfortunately, reality had other plans. Throughout the meeting, Emma demonstrated the same qualities everyone else seemed to admire. She listened carefully. She solved problems quickly. She treated every person in the room with respect, regardless of position or influence. More than once, participants turned to her for guidance before consulting anyone else. Logan watched quietly. The woman he once dismissed had become one of the most trusted voices in the room. Near the end of the meeting, an unexpected problem emerged. Funding delays threatened one of the literacy programs scheduled to launch before the school year began. Several administrators immediately began debating solutions. Before the conversation could spiral further, Nathan calmly stepped in. Emma already prepared a contingency plan, he said. Every head turned toward her. Emma opened a folder and presented a detailed strategy that addressed every concern. Within minutes, the room reached a consensus. The project was saved. As the meeting concluded, several people congratulated her. Logan noticed the pride in Nathan's expression. Not pride in himself, pride in her. The sight stayed with him long after everyone left. Later that evening, another event brought many of the same people together. A rooftop reception overlooking Manhattan offered guests an opportunity to network while celebrating recent community achievements. The atmosphere was relaxed. Music played softly. The city skyline glowed beneath a clear summer sky. Logan arrived late and immediately spotted Emma near the railing. Nathan stood beside her. They appeared deep in conversation. At one point, Emma laughed and lightly touched Nathan's arm while reacting to something he said. The gesture lasted less than a second. It meant nothing. Yet Logan felt the impact immediately. A sharp wave of discomfort settled in his chest. He hated it. He hated how much he noticed. He hated how much it mattered. Most of all, he hated that he had no right to feel this way. Nathan had done nothing wrong. Emma had done nothing wrong. The only person responsible for the situation was him. Vanessa appeared once again as if she possessed perfect timing. "You look miserable," she said. Logan sighed. "Thank you for your concern." "You are welcome." She glanced toward Emma and Nathan. "Still pretending you do not care?" Logan remained silent. Vanessa shook her head. "You know what amazes me? You built an empire by recognizing value before everyone else did." Her voice softened slightly. "But somehow you completely missed the value of the person standing right beside you." For once, Logan did not argue, because deep down he knew she was right. As he watched Emma smile beneath the city lights, another painful truth became impossible to ignore. He was no longer afraid of losing her. He had already lost her. And if he wanted any chance of changing that, he would have to stop feeling sorry for himself and finally confront the mistake that started everything. The realization followed Logan everywhere. It sat beside him during meetings. It waited for him in quiet elevators. It stared back from the reflection in his office windows late at night. For months, he had focused on what Nathan was doing right. Now he was finally forced to confront what he himself had done wrong. The difference mattered. Jealousy alone changed nothing. Accountability did. A week later, Logan attended a foundation board meeting where several community organizations presented future plans. Emma's education initiative was among them. As representatives discussed expansion opportunities, one announcement immediately captured everyone's attention. The program had been selected for a national partnership that would allow literacy centers to expand into multiple states. Applause filled the room. Several people congratulated Emma. Logan watched her accept the praise with the same humility she always displayed. Then another detail emerged. The expansion would require extensive travel, potentially a permanent relocation within the next year. The words hit him harder than expected. Relocation. Until that moment, some part of him had continued believing Emma would remain nearby. The possibility that she might leave New York entirely had never felt real. Now it did. After the meeting ended, Logan remained seated while the room slowly emptied. Claire noticed immediately. "You look like someone just delivered terrible news." Logan stared at the presentation materials still scattered across the table. "What if she leaves?" Claire did not need to ask who he meant. "Then she leaves. That is your advice?" "No." Claire sat down beside him. "My advice is that you stop acting like this is happening to you." Logan looked at her. What does that mean? It means Emma did not wake up one morning and randomly decide to build a life somewhere else. She adapted. She moved forward. Her voice softened. You gave her every reason to. The truth hurt because it was accurate. Meanwhile, Emma was facing her own difficult decisions. The national partnership represented everything she had worked toward. More communities, more resources, more opportunities to help families. Yet accepting it would mean leaving behind the city she loved. That evening she met Nathan at a small cafe near one of their literacy centers. Everyone assumes the decision is easy, she admitted. Nathan smiled. And is it? Emma looked out the window at the busy street beyond. No, Nathan nodded thoughtfully. The important choices never are. For several moments they sat in comfortable silence. Then Nathan surprised her. Whatever you decide, make sure it is your choice. Emma looked at him. What do you mean? Do not stay because someone expects you to. Do not leave because you are trying to escape something. He smiled gently. Choose the future you actually want. Across the city, Logan stood alone inside the foundation offices long after everyone had gone home. He had wandered there almost without thinking. The space looked different now. New employees occupied desks. New projects filled bulletin boards. Yet one corner remained exactly as he remembered. Emma's old workspace sat beside the window overlooking the park. Logan slowly walked toward it. For the first time, he understood that the greatest mistake of his life had never been the cruel sentence he spoke at the gala. The greatest mistake was believing that someone as extraordinary as Emma would stay forever after being treated like she did not matter. And standing there in the quiet office, Logan finally made a decision. He could not change the past, but before Emma chose her future, he was going to tell her the truth. Logan spent 3 days deciding what he wanted to say, and another 3 realizing there was no perfect way to say it. The problem was not finding the right words. The problem was that words alone could never erase what he had done. Still, he knew he had to try. On Friday afternoon, he called Nathan. The request surprised them both. I would like to meet, Logan said. Nathan remained silent for a moment. About Emma? Logan closed his eyes briefly. Yes. They agreed to meet at a quiet restaurant overlooking the Hudson River. The atmosphere was calm, but neither man pretended the conversation would be easy. Nathan arrived first. Logan joined him a few minutes later. After exchanging brief greetings, they sat across from each other in silence. Finally, Nathan spoke. You look terrible. Logan laughed despite himself. Thank you. You are welcome. The humor faded quickly. Nathan leaned back in his chair. So what is this really about? Logan stared out the window toward the water. I think I made the biggest mistake of my life. Nathan did not appear surprised. You are only figuring that out now? Logan accepted the criticism without argument. Months earlier, he would have defended himself. Today, he could not. I hurt her. Yes. And I do not know how to fix it. Nathan studied him carefully. That is because some things cannot be fixed. The words landed heavily. Logan nodded. I know. For several moments, neither spoke. Then Nathan asked the question that mattered most. Do you actually understand why she left? Logan immediately thought about the gala, the champagne glasses, the humiliation. But Nathan shook his head before he could answer. That was the final straw, not the reason. Logan frowned. Nathan continued. Emma spent years trying to earn respect from people who should have given it freely. She worked harder than everyone around her. She solved problems nobody else wanted to solve. She cared about things most people ignored. His voice remained calm, but firm. Then one public mistake happened, and you made her feel like none of that mattered. Logan lowered his gaze. Every word was true. Nathan sighed. Do you know what she said after she resigned? Logan looked up. No. She said the saddest part was realizing she had been trying to impress someone whose opinion she valued more than her own. The sentence hit harder than anything Logan had heard in months. Because for the first time, he truly understood the damage he caused. Nathan watched the realization appear on his face. You were ashamed of her, he said quietly. I was proud of her. Silence followed. The words echoed between them. Logan could not deny them. He remembered every accomplishment he had overlooked. Every contribution he had taken for granted. Every moment he should have supported her and failed. Eventually Nathan leaned forward. For what it is worth, I do not think Emma hates you. Logan looked surprised. No. Nathan shook his head. She is disappointed. There is a difference. Outside the restaurant, sunlight reflected across the river. Inside, Logan felt something shift. For months he had focused on his jealousy. his fear, his regret. Now, for the first time, he understood the deeper truth. This was not about winning Emma back from another man. It was about becoming the man he should have been from the beginning. As the meeting ended, Nathan stood and prepared to leave. Then he paused. If you are going to talk to her, do not make it about what you feel. Logan frowned. What should I make it about? Nathan smiled sadly. Make it about what she deserved all along. And as Logan watched him walk away, he realized exactly what he needed to do next. 3 days later, the largest annual fundraising event for community education programs took place at the same grand ballroom where everything had begun months earlier. The irony was impossible to ignore. The chandeliers still sparkled above hundreds of guests. The orchestra still played softly. Influential donors and community leaders still filled the room. Yet for Logan, the evening felt completely different. The last time he stood here, pride had spoken louder than kindness. Tonight, he intended to change that. Emma arrived shortly before the program began. She immediately noticed the familiar setting and felt a brief wave of memories. Beside her, Nathan quietly smiled. You okay? Emma nodded. Just remembering. Nathan understood without needing further explanation. Whatever happens tonight, he said, remember how far you have come. Emma smiled gratefully. As the evening progressed, several awards were presented honoring educational achievements throughout the city. Emma received one of the night's highest recognitions for her work expanding literacy access to underserved communities. The applause seemed endless. Cameras flashed. Guests rose to their feet. Emma accepted the award with humility and grace before returning to her table. Then the Master of Ceremonies announced an unexpected addition to the program. Before we conclude this evening, Mr. Logan Hayes has requested a few minutes to address our guests. Emma looked up immediately. Across the room, Logan rose from his seat and slowly walked toward the stage. A quiet murmur spread through the audience. Public speaking never intimidated him. Yet tonight felt different. For the first time in years, he had no prepared corporate message. No financial report. No strategic announcement. Only the truth. Logan stepped behind the microphone and looked out across the crowded ballroom. His eyes eventually found Emma. Then he began. Several months ago, I stood in this room and made a mistake. The audience fell silent. At the time, I convinced myself it was a small mistake. One careless sentence spoken during a stressful evening. He paused briefly. I was wrong. Emma sat perfectly still. Logan continued. The problem was not simply what I said. The problem was what my words revealed. They revealed arrogance. They revealed selfishness. Most importantly, they revealed how little appreciation I had shown someone who deserved far better. Guests exchanged curious glances. Many now understood exactly who he meant. Logan looked directly toward Emma. There is someone in this room who spent years improving lives, strengthening communities, and helping people succeed. Someone whose kindness created opportunities for thousands of families. His voice grew steadier. Instead of celebrating those qualities, I reduced her value to a single mistake. The ballroom remained completely silent. For that, Logan said, I am deeply sorry. No excuses followed. No explanations. No attempt to defend himself. Only accountability. The success we celebrate tonight exists because people choose to invest in others. Emma Brooks has spent years doing exactly that. She believed in people before they believed in themselves. His expression softened. I should have been one of those people. Instead, I became someone who made her question her worth. Emma felt tears gathering despite her efforts to remain composed. Logan took a slow breath. I cannot change what happened, but I can acknowledge the truth. The truth is that this city is better because of Emma. These programs are stronger because of Emma. Countless lives have improved because of Emma. He smiled gently, and I was too blind to see it when I had the chance. For several seconds, no one moved. Then applause began somewhere near the back of the room. It quickly spread throughout the ballroom until hundreds of people were standing. Yet Logan barely noticed, because the only reaction that mattered belonged to Emma. For several seconds after the applause faded, Emma remained seated without moving. Around her, guests slowly returned to their seats, but the atmosphere in the ballroom had changed. What Logan had done was not a publicity gesture. Everyone could see that. There had been no excuses, no attempt to protect his image, no effort to rewrite history. He had simply told the truth. And somehow, that made the moment far more powerful. Logan stepped away from the microphone and returned to the floor. He did not approach Emma immediately. He did not pressure her for a response. Instead, he quietly stood near the stage speaking with guests who stopped to congratulate him for his honesty. Across the room, Emma tried to collect her thoughts. Nathan sat beside her, allowing the silence to settle naturally. Finally, he smiled. Well, Emma laughed softly through the tears she had been trying to hide. Well, Nathan glanced toward Logan. I think that may have been the first time I have ever seen him genuinely terrified. The observation made Emma smile. Probably. Nathan's expression softened. Whatever happens next, I hope you choose what makes you happy. Emma looked at him carefully. You already know what I am thinking. I know you. He smiled warmly. That is enough. Later that evening, after most guests had departed, Emma stepped onto a quiet outdoor terrace overlooking the city skyline. Warm lights stretched across Manhattan in every direction. The noise from the ballroom faded behind her. For the first time all evening, she found herself alone. Or at least she was alone for a few moments. Then she heard familiar footsteps approaching. Logan stopped several feet away. Neither spoke immediately. The city shimmered beneath the night sky. Finally, Logan broke the silence. Thank you for listening. Emma folded her arms gently. You surprised a lot of people tonight. I surprised myself. A small smile appeared on her face. Logan took a slow breath. I meant every word. I know. The answer seemed to catch him off guard. Emma looked out across the skyline. For a long time, I wanted an apology. Her voice remained calm. Then eventually I stopped expecting one. Logan lowered his gaze. I deserve that. Maybe. She turned toward him. But tonight was not really about me. He frowned slightly. What do you mean? Tonight was about you finally seeing the truth. Logan considered her words carefully. She was right. The apology mattered, but the transformation behind it mattered more. After a moment, Emma reached into her purse and removed something worn and familiar. Her old library card. The same card she had carried for years. Do you know why I kept this? She asked. Logan shook his head. No, Emma smiled. Because it reminds me where everything started. Every opportunity. Every dream. Every person who believed in me. She looked directly at him. For a while, I forgot that my value did not come from other people's approval. Logan felt the weight of her words. I helped make you forget. Yes. The honesty stung, but neither looked away. Then something unexpected happened. Emma smiled. Not because the past no longer mattered. Not because the hurt disappeared, but because she had finally moved beyond it. The difference now, she said, is that I remember. Logan nodded slowly. And what happens next? Emma glanced toward the ballroom where friends, volunteers, educators, and community leaders continued celebrating the future they had all helped build. Then she looked back at him. That depends. On what? A gentle smile appeared in her eyes. On whether the man standing in front of me keeps becoming the man who walked onto that stage tonight. For the first time in months, hope replaced regret. Logan smiled. I can do that. Emma extended her hand. Not a promise. Not a guarantee. Simply a beginning. Logan accepted it. And beneath the lights of the city they both loved, two people who had taken very different paths finally found themselves walking forward in the same direction.